What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is your review for Reasonable Doubt Season 1, Episode 8, I believe we are on. So listen, you guys, this episode is another flashback. We are getting the backstory, which they've been alluding to as it relates to Jax and her stepdad. He's still in the hospital, and we flash back to 1996. And what we see in a series of flashbacks is, yes, he was an alcoholic, and in his alcoholism, there were a couple of incidents where he, touched her breast. He walked in on her in the bathroom. He touched her on her butt. And of course, with each incident, it's like, okay, well, did he mean to do it? Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? Was he drinking? Was he sober? And of course, Jax being, she's 16 years old. She's trying to process this. And we see these events flashback and correlate with different things that are going on with her throughout this episode. And of course, this is something they've been alluding to the whole time. So we're going to come back to that, but that's what we see. We see Jax take the kids to the hospital to visit him. But she ain't really here for it. It's like, I'm taking them here just to say I did it. But for real, I really ain't feeling it. And Lewis ain't giving her a whole lot, and, again, she's trying to balance all of this that she has on her shoulders, with the trial and now with, Lewis, and then the kids, and now with her mom and her stepdad in the hospital, and her dealing with her own issues, as it relates to him. So, we see where they're still trying to figure out this fingerprint, and they're trying to get fingerprints from the people that the police would not have fingerprinted or are not in the police's database, but that may be connected. That may be, the people that left that fingerprint on that wine glass. We see Jax talking to, her associate, like, listen, what's up with you and Theo? Like, that's your boy. You've been real close with him. And he was like, listen, my allegiance is to this law firm. My allegiance is to this case. Like, yeah, Theo was cool, but, if he would betray his best friend of 20 years, then I certainly can't expect any type of loyalty towards me. So what we find out is, while all of this is going on, Jax asked for a late start because she had a family emergency. And they having a whole board meeting that Brayden walks in on. He's like, whoa, wait, what's all of this? And they were like, oh, we thought you would be in court. He was like, yeah, obviously. He was like, what's going on? Well, Theo done went to the board and did exactly what we knew he was doing, and what Brayden actually felt like he was doing as well. He done went to the board and basically expressed concern. They're trying to sell the company. Buyers are sort of backing away from the company, backing away from being interested in buying the company because they're a little worried about what's going on with the court case. So so Theo said, well, I'm gonna go on air, and he's going on, like, the equivalent of like CNN or whatever, to do an interview and basically, to reassure the stockholders and reassure everybody that the company is still in good standing, the company is still, in a good space. And baby, he goes on TV, and they are interviewing him, and he sits there and lets them know that he is now interim CEO, and that, they asked him, well, do you think that he would kill somebody? And, he wouldn't give a definitive absolutely not. It was like, well, I never know what anybody will do. So Brayden is sitting there with his wife like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened here? And she was like, oh, you just got your company stolen from you on national TV. That's what's happening right here. That's what I just saw. I just saw them steal your company. Ciao. So, Jax is having a little dinner date lunch date, whatever, with Damon. And she's, talking to Damon like you would in a normal relationship about what's going on, and, what she got going on with the stepdaddy and with the trial and everything like that. And her phone rings. Well, come to find out, her and Lewis and got they wires crossed, and each person thought the other person was picking the kids up from school. Well, basically, neither one of them picked the kids up from school. So now they're sitting there like, oh my goodness, the kids are sitting at school. So she leaves, and of course he's, Damon is like, well, let me go with you. And she was like, no, I gotta go pick up my kids. And he was like, oh, so I'm not good enough for your regular life. I'm not good enough for your day-to-day life. And she was like, bruh, like, do we have to have this conversation every time? Do we have to do this every time? Like, I thought that I was clear with you about what I can give you, what I can't give you, and where my bandwidth is right now with relationships. When she gets to the school, Lewis is like, listen, I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, the kids are upset. The son basically told both of them, listen, ever since y'all decided y'all was going to do this separation thing, we the ones that's paying. We're the ones that's stuck in the middle of this, and y'all need to get y'all what together. And he ain't wrong. I mean, it might not be appropriate for him to say it, but he ain't wrong. And Lewis lets Jax know, listen, I done already talked to a divorce attorney. I'm not doing this with you. You out here dating other men. You clearly are not, committed to us trying to figure this out and work on our relationship. So while you do what you do, I'm going to do what I do. And she was like, wait a minute. What, you following me? He was like, it don't even matter how I found out. Just know that I know that you out there playing footsies with some other dude, and I'm not here for that. Like, that's not what I'm here for. That ain't my job. That ain't what I'm trying to do with myself. So while all of this is going on, Brayden decides that he pissed off about the fact that his company just got stolen from him, and now he wants to go on the stand talking about he feel like that's what he need to do in his gut. He feel like he needs to testify. And so, of course, Jax, and, her associate, well, not her associate, her partner was like, oh, okay, then let's practice. Let's see how that's going to work out. Let's practice. Baby, they sit down to practice, and, of course, they rip him a new one. By the time it's over with, Jackson turned him into a whole, R word and everything else. And she was like, if I did that, what do you think they're going to do? Because remember, Kalisha was accusing Brayden of assault. She felt like what he thought was consensual sex, she didn't feel that way. And of course, she was like, if I put you on the stand, all of that comes out. Because remember, they have her laptop. And remember, because they have her laptop, they have access to all the information that is in her laptop. So if I put you on the stand, that is opening the door for everything. And we just can't recover from that. You know what I mean? Like, we just can't recover from that. So Jax, after Lewis told her that, he was going to talk to her, that he had talked to a divorce attorney, Jax is losing it. So she ends up calling her friend, not Sally, but the other one, Sally's cousin, the basketball player's wife, because she's the only one that knows Jax's story. She's the as far as her relationship with the stepfather, because in high school, because she confided in her, because of when all that was going on, she was actually going to her house and hanging out with her. And of course, she never told anybody. She was like, and so because when she needed to talk to somebody about it, that's who she reached out to. And they actually had a moment for a minute. They were actually in a good space. And she was like, well, Jax, I never told anybody your story. I never shared that information. You never even told Lewis. Maybe you should, because maybe Lewis will understand some things. Maybe it'll help make some things make sense to him. And she was like, yeah, it would. But right now, like telling him right now, it would just, he would want to comfort me and all that. And that's not what I need right now, But then the next breath, she was like, she let her know, listen, I'm seeing somebody. It's complicated. It's, it just got me all mixed up right now. Got me just trying to figure it all out. And she was like, well, I can't believe he's talking about divorce, because he was just at my house last week, asking, and we were talking about you. And I was telling him that you seem really happy. And Jax was like, you what? Why are you talking to my husband about me? Like, I can't even trust you. And she was like, wait a minute. First of all, maybe if you talked to me more, I would have known that you were seeing somebody else, and I wouldn't have put my foot in my mouth and said anything to your husband that would give him the impression that I wasn't talking about him, okay? That's number one. Number two, we literally just had a conversation where you just admitted to me, or where I just admitted to you that I never told anybody your deepest, darkest secret. So don't sit here and act like you can't trust me. Don't sit here and act like I ain't been a good friend to you. Like, don't play that with, don't do that to me. And then, of course, by that time, Jax is like, I'm sorry, you're right. She was like, nah, we good. Don't worry about it. She was like, you really need to get a handle on your trauma because you keep pushing everybody away and you're going to look up and you're going to be by yourself. She was like, if I wanted, people to blame me for everything that's wrong in their life, I would have stayed home. And she was like, what do you mean by that? And she was like, ooh, just like you don't want nobody talking about your marriage, I don't need nobody worrying about what's going on in my marriage. And I was like, damn, Jax, like, she ain't wrong. Now, back over to the trial, we realized that they need to get, they decided they need to get these fingerprints from Theo because they all side-eyeing Theo now. Everybody is side-eyeing Theo. And so, the partner, he ends up going to have drinks with Theo and lets Theo know, listen, yeah, we not on the same team no more. I'm not working for you no more. Like, I did let Jax know everything that we talked about, and I shared everything with Jax, and he was like, oh, so that's your boss? He was like, Jax is not my boss. Jax is my associate. And he was like, oh, so you brought me here to try to get me drunk thinking maybe I would tell you something? He was like, whatever. My mom is Irish. I'm British. Like, you'll fall out long before I will. And he was like, oh, well, I guess you got me. He was like, now, is that all you need? Let Jax know that me and her don't need to prep for her little trial. I'll read over her questions and I'll send her back my answers. And he gets up and leave. But really, for real, all they was doing was setting him up to get his fingerprints. Okay, moving on. Now, at the courthouse, the wife is getting ready to testify, and so is Theo. Now, Jax was like, listen, at the end of the day, we got to tighten up Braden's timeline and all of that. And they were like, well, do you really trust the wife? Do you really think the wife is going to stay in line? And she was like, listen, either she going to stay in line or I'm a bulldozer. My client is Braden, not her. So at the end of the day, my job is to get him off. If she get caught up, if she get thrown under the bus, that's on her. So when she goes to testify, Jax does exactly that because it comes out on the stand that she knew about the affair the whole time. Of course, the emails that she sent Kalisha come out, and it blindsides Jax and Braden, and they both would sit there like, for real? So, like, all of that was an act. Like, she knew the whole time about the affair. Like, stop playing. So, Jax ends up basically putting reasonable doubt that she had time to go kill Kalisha. And, of course, she's pissed off, like, oh my gosh, like, how could you do that to me? You threw me under the bus. She was like, yo, you kind of left me no choice because you lied to me and I had to recover. So Theo goes to testify, and once again, they got some good information. They were able to, put some records together and found out that basically it looks like he was the one that overvalued the price of the company, not Kalisha, and he was the one that was lying and was actually stealing money from the company, not Kalisha. So, of course, she was able to put reasonable doubt in the minds about him having a motive and about him wanting, control of the company and could possibly be throwing, setting Braden up. But the thing was, in this episode, the fingerprints didn't come back yet. So, we don't have any fingerprints at this point. Now, Jax goes home that night, and who come ringing her doorbell is Will. Remember the security guard, Will? Well, Will is like, listen, I've been trying to get in touch with you. She was like, bruh, like, why are you here? Like, bruh, like, for real, why are you here? And he was like, I've been trying to get in touch with you, but, like, you're not getting none of my messages. You're not responding. And that's when she realized that somebody done deleted the man out her phone because there's no text thread between them. And y'all know how the phones work. Even if you texted somebody 5 years ago, if you don't delete the text thread, them texts still in your daggone phone. But because there was no text message, no history. Now, I don't know if she, in that moment, suspected Damon, but I'm sure by the end of the night she did. So she lets Will in, and basically Will says, listen, I guess your husband got me fired because not only did I lose this job, but I got fired from the company and I haven't been able to get hired. And he was like, basically, I need a letter of recommendation and maybe you could help me find a job. Like, it's the least you could do since your husband is the reason why I'm not working. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize he had done that. You're absolutely correct. Come by my office. I'll get my secretary to write you a letter. I'll do what I can. You're right. So she goes to open the door to let Will out. And who is standing there? Damon. And so she is like, Damon, what the hell are you doing here? And he was like, oh, this what's going on. And he proceeds to whoop Will's ass. She tries to pull Damon off. Damon ends up leaving, you know, running off, whatever. And she's, of course, again apologizing to Will. And Will was like, let me tell you something. You ain't never going to hear from me again. Because you are the worst thing that has ever happened to me, ma'am. Okay? I don't know what the hell you got going on, but you are the worst thing that has ever happened to me. So you ain't got to worry about me ever again. Okay? Ever again. Now, Damon is not keeping up his end of the bargain with this whole illegal parts situation. And the cousin is pissed off about it. And the cousin, of course, is blaming Damon's relationship with Jax. Like, you know, so she the reason why you can't, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And he was like, don't blame Jax. Jax ain't got nothing to do with this. But again, you know, I really think the cousin is a red herring. Because remember, we're ultimately trying to figure out who has her tied up at the, you know, tied up and look like they get ready, you know, to off her. So I feel like he's a red herring. Like, he don't like it, but I don't think he's that vested that he would do something to Jax. But I could be wrong. But I just don't think he's a serious contender, child. I don't. But again, I could be wrong. The other thing was Jax ends up going up to Braden's house. Braden is drunk, child. And he basically makes a pass at Kalisha. You know, they have a moment which on one hand seems real tender. It seems real like, you know, I thought you were an asshole the first time I met you, and this and this. And then he goes to hug her and he was like, you smell like her. And she was like, yo, bruh. And he actually makes a pass at her, which of course throws her all the way off, because remember this, like I said, remember again, this whole episode we're flashing back to her situation with the stepdaddy. Well, the last situation we end up seeing with the stepdaddy is one night he ends up climbing into bed with her. Now, the next day he apologizes and she doesn't really necessarily accept his apology. The mother walks in on her crying, and the mother is like, what's going on? Why are you crying? And, you know, he was like, and she tells the mom what happened. So, of course, the mom confronts him. He ends up leaving. The mom is upset. You know, all I wanted him to do was to stop drinking. He said he was drunk the night that he climbed into bed. It was an accident. He didn't mean to do it. And then even on his way out the door, he gives Jax some money because he was trying to help Jax save up money to buy a car. And she rips up the letter. I mean, she rips up the check, child. She don't want none of his blood money. But this is where we see what is the whole crux of where we end up with the situation with the stepdad and what the situation is, you know, and why she's so upset when the mother decides to take the stepdad back. Because it's like, really, like, you know, what about my trauma? What about what he did to me? But, of course, the mom's thing is he was drunk. He didn't mean it, you know. So, the next day they're in court, child. After all the stuff that done happened, Jax done been through so much, honey. Braden tries to apologize. She was like, listen, we got a trial to win. For real, I just can't. I can't with you and your apologies. We just got to win this trial. It is what it is. So it's the end of her case in court, and they bring Braden's mom up there to tell the story of how Braden stopped his mom from committing a violent act after the brother was killed. And when it's over with, she decides that she wants to talk to Lewis, and, you know, she reaches out to him. And, of course, Lewis is like, what do you want? He's very short with her. And she was like, damn, you're not going to make this easy on me. And he was like, no. She was like, well, I want to talk, you know, like, I don't want to get divorced. You know, I want us to try to work this out. You know, I love you. She was like, yes, I was seeing somebody else, but I just needed, you know, basically I needed somebody to make me feel good. Like, I needed something that was easy. I didn't need nothing that was hard. And he was there. It was easy, but it was a mistake. And I really want to try to make this work. I really want to try to fix this. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. You got to give me some time, you know. And she was like, I get it. I understand. I can dig it. We see her talk to Damon, and Damon apologizes, and, you know, he falls into her arms, and she hugs him. But I don't know, because she said it was over. She said she was done with him, and it was over, child. So I don't know about that situation. Then we see her at her office writing her closing argument, and her secretary is like, listen, what is going on? Like, she said, I've seen you write a million closing arguments. I've never seen you this distracted. Like, whatever you got going on with Keith, I think that's the stepdaddy's name, it seems to really have you really upset. And she was like, you know what, you're right. She was like, clear my calendar. And she goes down to the hospital to visit Keith. And, you know, she says to him, she says, listen, like, do you ever think about that night? It's just the two of them. You know, her mom is in the commissary or whatever. And she was like, do you ever think about that night? And he was like, it was a mistake. It was the worst night of my life. You know, I never meant for it to happen. He was like, I was blackout drunk. And she was like, I don't think so. She said, I don't think he was no blackout drunk. She said, because what about the other times? What about the time you touched my breast? What about the time you rubbed my ass? What about, you know, like, I don't know. I think you were grooming me, and I think you were going to continue to push the limit until you totally violated me. And, you know, if you ever touch my daughter, it's going to be me and you. And he starts having trouble breathing. He starts having problems breathing. And she won't give him the call thing for the nurse until she finished saying what she has to say to him. And he ends up going into like cardiac arrest. The nurses come rushing in. Her mom pushes past her. And we see where he ended up passing away. And as she's walking to the car, you see her thinking. You see her mind thinking. And she said, she ends up calling somebody. I don't know who she called. She was like, I know who killed Kalisha. And that's where the episode ends. Child, listen, let me tell you something. This episode was good. This show is good, but this episode was extremely good. The way they handled the violation and showing the grooming process, and how they compared it to what she was dealing with in her present day. Child, listen, Kerry Washington deserves all the things. And whoever wrote this show and all that other stuff, and the actors and actresses, y'all deserve all the things. This show is so good. But baby, I got to get to this next episode. I'm be back when I can get back. But baby, I'm about to watch it right now. Talk to y'all later. Peace.